It's Friday, February the 24th, 2017, and this is your Barbados Today evening update. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Thanks for joining us. Now to the big story at this hour. Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Barbados, Cleviston Haynes, has been appointed to replace Dr. Worrell, who was fired from his post of governor today by Minister of Finance Chris Sinclair. In confirming Dr. Worrell's dismissal, the Ministry of Finance said in a statement that the Board of Directors also agreed at a specially convened meeting this afternoon that Financial Controller Michael Carrington be appointed to act as Deputy Governor. Both appointments have been approved by Minister Sinclair and take effect today. Meanwhile, Sinclair would address matters relating to the economy on Monday when he meets the press at the Cabinet Office at 2 p.m. At the same time, Prime Minister Stuart steered clear of the issue with the Central Bank Governor this morning during the public launch of the amendment to the Physical Development Plan at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Centre. However, one of the big-ticket items on his mind was the shortage of housing for Barbadians. In expressing concern about the high number of unoccupied housing units island-wide, Stuart said that in 2000, the level of vacant properties stood at 9% of the overall stock, but skyrocketed to 17% 10 years later.
This is the trend island-wide. For example, for the parish of St. Michael, the rate was 6.6% in 2000 and 11.2% in the year 2010. It is a situation that we cannot ignore, and I understand that the relevant agencies are in the process of detailing clear procedures for working with property owners in order to ensure that these properties can be used to provide housing solutions for Barbadians without, of course, doing any violence to property rights. This action will assist the government in achieving its objective of housing every last person.
A near $250,000 cassava flour plant is expected to go into operation in Barbados by September. Chief Executive Officer of the state-run Barbados Agricultural Development and Marketing Corporation, Sean Tudor, told Barbados Today this morning on the sidelines of the launch of the revised physical development plan that while the cassava mill will not be labor-intensive, the value-added spin-off will result in plenty of jobs.
I'm happy to announce that we just got planning permission from the town planner here today to put up the building that we can have the mill, because the mill has already been ordered. The mill is on its way to be installed, and that mill will permit us to produce 1,000 kilograms of flour a shift, ton of flour a shift, and that allows us to make a huge amount of the cassava sorbet. That will allow us to go into the to make the flour available to any manufacturer to make the pasta now from the cassava flour. So the key in that was the cassava mill, as I sent to you, the value chain approach. And I believe that we will have our mill open in September or thereabout.
Trudeau also said that the introduction of the cassava mill will see very large tracts of idle agricultural land returning to production for farmers.
We will then require hundreds of acres of cassava to be planted. We will enter into contract with farmers, and there are also options for feed available down that route.
The Ministry of Health has dismissed as untrue a report being relayed via WhatsApp that a 10-year-old Barbadian boy was infected with HIV after eating pineapple purchased from a vendor who was himself infected. According to the report being circulated, the vendor had a cut on his finger and blood was transferred to the fruit while he was cutting it. The story claimed that the child became sick immediately after ingesting the fruit. But Senior Medical Officer Dr. Anton Best tells Barbados Today any such transmission was simply not possible.
It's virtually impossible for the blood of an infected person to contaminate food and place someone at risk for HIV. And it's also highly unlikely for HIV to be transmitted via the ingestion of food items. The story that was reported in WhatsApp is laden with a lot of misunderstandings about how HIV may be acquired and how the health system in Barbados works. When someone is newly infected with HIV, they get sick 2 to 3 weeks after becoming infected and not right away, as the story suggested. And so therefore the story on WhatsApp is even more preposterous for that reason. We also have to appreciate that the Barbados healthcare system prides itself on confidentiality of medical information of patients. Therefore, it is highly unlikely that such detailed patient information would be divulged from a credible source working within the Ministry of Health or the Queen Elizabeth Hospital.
Former Barbados High Commissioner to Britain Don Johnson is questioning the timing of the National March of Disgust planned for March the 11th by the Mia Mottley-led opposition Barbados Labour Party. The anti-government demonstration is clashing with another march that highlights the issue of violence against women. Delivering the regular Democratic Labour Party lunchtime lecture today, Johnson ridiculed Mottley for her approach to tackling social, political and economic issues in the country.
But if you keep looking at the leader of the opposition, what do you see other than noise? Keep a lot of noise, agitate, march, whether the sun hot or not. You know what I mean? March, we're going to march. We're going to march. We don't care what day it is. And I wonder if I am true that that day is set aside as a day of violence against women. What do you have to hide that you don't want, that you want to overshadow it rather, by a march against the Democratic Labour Party rather than supporting the march for violence against women?
In sport, the Caribbean Premier League is in the process of making plans to play another round of matches at the Central Broward Regional Park in Lauderhill, Florida for the 2017 season. In Broward County Parks, officials said that CPL officials have requested 2 sets of week-long time frames to be blocked off for possible use by the CPL in the month of August.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
It's the celebration of agriculture, 50 years and beyond. Come and experience this year's AgroFest exhibition at the historic Queen's Park on February 24th to 26th.
Box offices: Barbados Agricultural Society, Roberts Manufacturing Feed Store, Clear Vision Optical, Massey Stores Barbados Limited, Worthing, Sunset Crest, Oystons and Sky Mall, Massey Stores Home, Sheraton and Pierhead, Cape Shepherd Broad Street, Waterworld Pet Shop, Jordan's Complex Spikestown, Ticket Centre, Massey Supercentre Warrings. Be there.
Get your paper. Only $2.25. $2.20. Who? For what? That's Bear Steel News. I don't read about that on Barbados today since last night. That can't only care do. $2.20. Who?
The Barbados Today, news you can trust.
In news from the region now, the government of Japan is providing over US $1.7 million in development aid to St. Lucia. The funds will be used to promote economic and social development with an emphasis on climate change, adaptation, and to assist the Victoria and St. Jude hospitals.
Japanese Ambassador Mitsuhiko Okada says his government is well aware of Caribbean countries' need to address their vulnerabilities to natural disasters.
Due to the severe effects of climate change, small island developing states like St. Lucia are vulnerable to natural disasters. As a result, the areas of adaptation to and mitigation against climate change have been the recent focus of Japanese grant aid assistance in the Caribbean region. This includes strengthening natural disaster preparedness and enhancing recovery capabilities in the region.
As part of the grassroots human security projects, just over $161,000 has been earmarked for the procurement of medical equipment for Victoria Hospital and an ambulance for St. Jude.
And on the global front, CNN and other news outlets were blocked today from an off-camera White House press briefing, raising alarm among media organizations and First Amendment watchdogs. The New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, Politico, and BuzzFeed were also excluded from the meeting, which is known as a gaggle, and is less formal than the televised question and answer session in the White House briefing room. The gaggle was held by White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer.
Sitting next to me, there are organizations who are boycotting this.
There are. What we have so far is the Associated Press and Time magazine. What you can imagine happened, Spicer held this gaggle. Certain organizations were told they couldn't attend. Certain media outlets, at least the Associated Press and Time, decided they weren't going to stand for that and then left the gaggle. I have to say this is extraordinarily troubling. By the way, I understand every White House administration's frustration with the press. The press doesn't always get it right. I understand the strategic effort here to demonize the media and why that plays well with the president's base. But when you get to the point where you are handpicking which media outlets get information from the White House, from the press secretary, from the spokesperson for the White House, that is extremely troubling. That does not speak of American democracy. And in fact, Peter Baker, veteran White House correspondent for the New York Times, tweeted, look, he covered the Clinton administration, Bush administration, Obama administration. He never remembers anything like this happening before.
And that's news and sports, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. Also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We are also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, or screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you, as well as Channel 99 on Flow TV and Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Have a fantastic weekend.